Hello everyone, welcome to the A.Z.School channel. In this video we're going to do a sample digital SAT practice test together. Okay, we can start with module 1. You can see that you have 32 minutes for 27 questions. That leaves you with roughly about 71 seconds for each question. So you need to budget your time in a real test. But today in this video we're going to do it in a more relaxed way. So we could level ourselves up. So in the next videos we will practice it more realistically with time limits and other conditions that we might face. Okay, so module 1 is English, and what we're going to do here is read a very short passage, and based on the passage answer a few questions. So the key to the English part is that the passage might have hidden points or some important issues that you need to pay attention to in order to answer the questions. Let's try the first one together. Archaeologists working at the site made a remarkable discovery that challenged previous timelines of ancient Egyptian civilization. The artifacts they uncovered suggested sophisticated metalworking techniques existed centuries earlier than previously documented. This finding has forced historians to reconsider the technological capabilities of early dynasty periods. Okay, so before we move on, it's very important to ask ourselves what was the main point that the author of this passage was trying to relay to us. So what I came up with was that some of the previous thoughts about technology or ancient civilizations may not have been true, and those civilizations may have achieved technology or metalworking techniques long before previously thought. Now let's go to the question. Question number 1. The main point of the text is to describe specific metalworking techniques, explain how archaeologists conduct excavations, discuss a discovery that changed historical understanding, compare different periods of Egyptian civilization. So I'd like to go with elimination process. So if your answer is not what I had in mind, I cross it off so I could come up with a right answer at the end. Let's carefully, so again we're not doing it by time limits, so let's take a careful look at why each answer may be right or wrong. Look at answer A. Describe a specific metalworking technique. So the passage need not pay attention to that. The passage actually use this as an evidence to show us that ancient civilizations may have been much more advanced than we previously thought. Okay, number B, explain how archaeologists conduct excavations. So there was a mention of the excavation in the passage, but they did not really explain how it is done. This could get a lot of details by itself, but it was only mentioned by name. 3, discuss a discovery that changed historical understandings. Okay, that's what I had in mind, because ancient civilizations seem to be much more advanced, or they have had access to technology much earlier than we had previously thought. So C seems to be a logical choice. D, compare different periods of Egyptian civilizations. That did not absolutely happen. Egypt was mentioned in the passage, but different periods of Egyptian civilization were not mentioned, were not discussed. So best choice seems to be C. So the other choices, they try to mislead you to something that did not exist in the passage. So, and if you get the main point of the passage, those erroneous choices will easily be eliminated. Okay, number 2. Let's discuss this one. Based on the text, what effect did the discovery have on historians? Okay, I could try to answer that by myself before I dig into the question, and that was the fact that ancient civilization may have had access to technology, especially metalwork technology, much earlier than we thought. Let's see if one of them discusses that. Okay, choice A. It confirmed existing theories about Egyptian technology. That's the opposite of what we had in mind. It actually refuted the existing theories about Egyptian technology. It revealed new information about Egyptian religious practices. So the passage had nothing to do with religious practices, so this is irrelevant as well. And choice C, it forced reconsideration of the technological timelines. So that seems to be what we had in mind. The timelines have been reconsidered, namely the time where ancient civilizations had access to metalwork technology, it seems to have been moved. Okay, and let's take a look at part D just to make sure. It provided evidence of foreign influence on Egyptian culture. That did not happen. Okay, so there was no mention of foreign influence, and there was no mention of influence on the culture. It was only the timeline for technological achievement has been moved. So choice C seems to be the right one. Moving on to the next one. Which choice best describes the tone of the text? Okay, this is kind of an overall question. They're not asking about any specific parts, but they're asking the overall tone and the overall message that the passage was trying to relay to you. Choice A says critical and skeptical. So it requires us to be quite familiar with those words, critical and skeptical. It means that was it trying to critique or say how good or how bad the Egyptian civilization was? No, that did not happen. Narrative and descriptive. That's almost like saying a story or memoirs that someone has from the past. So that did not happen either. Informative and significant. That seems to be a very logical choice because it informed us about some new discovery and was very significant because it showed us that ancient civilization had access to technology much earlier than previously thought. Humorous and lighthearted. So there was nothing funny about the passage. So choice D is eliminated as well. So the best one seems to be choice C. Okay, moving on to the next one. The team of international scientists blank presenting their research at the conference next week. So you have to put one of the choices A, B, or C, A, B, C, or D into blank. The tricky part is that we are dealing with the word scientist, that's plural. So we are very tempted to put a plural verb like are in the blank part, but that's misleading. The main subject of the statement is the team, which is singular. The team of international scientists. Let me repeat myself. The team of international scientists. So don't just try to look at what's closest to the blank part. Try to get the whole subject matter. Okay, the team of international scientists is singular. So we have to have a singular verb for it. And since there's an ing, it has to be to be verb, so the best choice seems to be is. Are and were the plural have been may work, but is seems to be the better choice. Remember, sometimes two choices are close, but you have to pick the better one. Okay, is presenting the research at the conference next week. All right, moving on to number 5. So the faster you move, the more realistic it'll be on the real SAT test. Okay, number 5. Many students find advanced mathematics challenging. Blank, with consistent practice and proper guidance, most can achieve proficiency. So one thing you can notice is that the two are contrasting each other, the two statements or the two sentences. The first one says that mathematics is very challenging, but the second part contrasts that in a sense that says with practice you can achieve, practice and proper guidance you can achieve proficiency. So which one of these words in the choices gives us contrast? Therefore, however, it gives us contrast, but that seems to be a choice A. That seems to be a good choice. B gives us therefore. Therefore means one sentence is based on the previous one. Similarly, it means the concept, ideas, or objects in two sentences are the same, and consequently gives us the sense that one sentence is the result of the previous one. So the only one that gave us a clear contrast between the two sentences was choice A. However, moving on. Number 6, text. The novel's protagonist undergoes significant personal growth throughout the story, transforming from a naive idealist to a pragmatic realist who understands the complexities of the world. So there are bigger words and more difficult words. That's something you need to prepare for on the SAT exams. So I guess what is happening is that from going from a naive idealist to a pragmatic realist. So it's good to ask yourself what kind of transformation has taken place here. A naive idealist is something who think everything's good, and he is very simple-minded in believing that. That's what naive means, naive idealist. Pragmatic realist is someone who sees reality much more clearly and doesn't easily believe in everything and doesn't believe everything is going to be good and fine. Okay, so that's a transformation that has taken place in this sentence to the main character or protagonist of the novel. So we need to find something close to that in the choices. Okay, what does the question say? Based on the text, how would the character's development be described? One more time, based on the text, how would the character's development be described? So remember what I repeated, what I said earlier. Try to match that with one of the choices. Choice A, remaining consistent in their worldview. That's the opposite. There was a profound change, I guess, in the main character of the novel. Choice B, becoming more cynical and disillusioned. So we need to be familiar with those big words, cynical and disillusioned. Cynical means that believing everything is bad, and if everything that is going to happen is bad. And disillusioned means we're not interested anymore. That's not what happened. We just saw reality. The protagonist or character of the story saw reality more clearly. That doesn't necessarily mean cynical. This choice seems to have gone far more than what the passage had intended. Part C, evolving to understand reality more deeply. That seems to be very close to what we discussed earlier, to get a better sense of reality. Rejecting earlier ideas completely. So the passage did not talk about earlier ideas and did not talk about rejecting anything. It just talked about evolving from the naive idealist to a pragmatic realist. So choice C seems to be the correct one. Moving on to question number 7. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to conversations of standard English? Neither the manager nor the employee is blank responsible for the accounting error. Again, we saw something like this previously. Just because employees is closest to the blank part, that doesn't mean it controls it or affects it. When you're talking about neither nor, the first subject is the one that controls the verb. So let me repeat that. When you're talking about neither and nor, the first subject is the one that controls the verb. So manager is the one that actually wants to control the verb. Manager is singular, so we need a singular verb for a choice is. Was is also singular, but the question doesn't necessarily go back to the past tense. So staying on the present tense seems to be the better choice. Okay, moving on to 8. Text. Climate scientists have observed alarming rates of glacial retreat in polar regions. The accelerated melting correlates strongly with rising global temperatures and poses significant threats to coastal communities worldwide. Okay, so they're talking about a natural disaster with global warming, water levels are rising, and uh, coastal communities are under threat. That's what I get by reading the passage firsthand or for the first time. Let's see if we can get what we understand from the first reading to one of the choices. Question: What is the primary concern expressed in the text? Okay, choice A: the difficulty of studying polar regions. That had nothing to do with text. We are not studying it. We are concerned what is happening to them. Choice B: economic impacts on coastal tourism. Well, okay, that seems to be a good choice because with rising water, most coastal tourism could be deeply affected. That seems to be a good choice, but let's consider also C and D. Choice C: threats from melting glaciers. Okay, there was only one threat, so threats seems to be far more than the passage was trying to give us. And part D: methods for measuring temperature changes. There was no method. It only said temperatures are rising because of global warming, but no methods were introduced. So the best choice seems to be B: economic impacts on coastal tourism. That's actually the correct choice. Okay, moving on to the next one now. Moving to the math part. Module 1. Module 1, 35 minutes, 22 questions. So that roughly gives you about 95 seconds for each question. So you need to pace yourself. But again, let me repeat. In this video, we're taking it easy, but in the future videos, we'll do it more realistically. We'll budget the time and try not to go over time. Okay, this one. Question number 9, 2x minus 5, let me just write down 2x minus 5 equals 15. Remember that you can also use a calculator on the digital SAT now. Okay, the easiest thing is to add 5 to both sides. If I add 5 to both sides, what I get is that 2x equals 20. Now divide both sides by 2 and I get x equals 10. So choice C. So one thing about math questions is that the correct answer is much more clear than the English question. There's only one right answer and all of the rest are wrong. But in English part, sometimes you need to find the best answer, something that is closer and closer to what the passage intended to survey to us. Okay, question 10. A rectangle has a length of 12 centimeters and a width of 8 centimeters. What is the perimeter? When they're talking about geometry, areas, and perimeters, it's very good to draw a figure. So the width is 8 and length is 12. So what is happening is that we want the perimeter. So what is the perimeter? The perimeter is length plus width times 2. So what is happening is that I need to add these two numbers, 8 plus 12 times 2. 8 plus 12 is 20 and times 2 gives us 40. Choice B is the right one. Question 11. The equation of a line is y equals 3x plus 2. What is the y-intercept? So that reminds us of the algebraic formula, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the intercept. So by this formula, it's clear that it's very clear that the intercept plus 2. But one other way of doing it is to, since we're looking for the y-intercept, x has to be 0. On the y-axis, x is always 0. So if you replace x with 0, that'll be 3 zeros plus 2, which gives you 2. The right answer. Okay, choice A. Question 12. If a car travels 150 miles in 3 hours, what is the average speed in miles per hour? So very, very simple question. So speed or rate equals distance over time. So distance is 150 miles and time is 3 hours. That would be 50 miles per hour. Question number B. So for some of these questions that are easier, you can move on quickly to save time and perhaps allocate to that time to more difficult questions like passage or English questions, just like we saw before. All right, question number 13, simplify. So here's what we have. 4 times 2x minus 3 plus 2x. So what is happening? That factor of 4 is going to be multiplied through the parentheses. So that'll give us 8x minus 12 plus 2x. If we combine the like terms, we get 10x minus 12. And here it is, choice B. All right. Moving on to question 14. What is the solution to the system of equations? Here it is. Here's the system they have. Let me rewrite it over here. 2x plus y equals 7 and x minus y equals 2. So the easiest thing to do is just add the two equations together. Since the first one left or right are equal and then the second one left or right are equal, if you add two equals, you can also get two new equals. So just add these two equations together, you get 3x. Notice that plus x plus y plus minus y gives you 0. So I eliminate that and gives me 9. Now divide both sides by 3, x equals 3. Now we have x, I need to calculate for y. You can replace either of these equations, you can place x, 3 for x, to get y. The second one seems to be easier, so 3 minus y gives you 2, which means y is equal to 1. So the pair that we need is 3 and 1. 3 and 1, which is choice A. Choice A. Moving on. A pizza with 12-inch diameter is cut into 8 slices. What is the area of one slice? Alright, so it's a 12-inch diameter. We need to get the radius. So the tricky part is that they give us the diameter, but we actually need the radius because the area of a radius is pi r squared. Okay, so they divide that number by 12 diameter. So let me draw a figure. This is the diameter, and half of it is the radius. So the diameter is 12. The radius is actually 6. So what we're looking for, the area is 6 squared pi, which gives you 36 pi, and now we need to divide that by 8, so because it's in 8 slices, and if I divide 36 pi by 8, that gives me 4.5 pi. Okay, 36 divided by 8 is 4.5. Do we have a choice? Yeah. A. The right choice is 4.5 pi inches squared. Okay, next question, 16. So what they have is that 3x minus 1 equals 27. On these exponent question, we try to get to make similar bases on both sides. So on the left side, the base is 3. I need to have a base of 3 on the right side as well. Then the equation will be very simple. So what is 27 on the base of 3? That's 3 to the third, right? So I'll rewrite this 3x minus 1 equals 3 to the third. In a sense, x minus 1 equals to 3, which means x equals 4. We have a choice, x equals 4. Oh, they're going to give us a choice, which is write the answer. Okay, x equals 4. Define an answer, x equals 4. And moving on to another reading part. Reading and writing advanced. So this reading part a little more difficult. So bigger words, bigger sentences. The more words or vocabulary you know, the more successful you're going to be on your SAT exam. Okay, 17. Let's read this one together. Why many attribute the decline of the Roman Empire solely to the barbarian invasion, one keyword, barbarian invasion, contemporary historians increasingly emphasize internal factors, political corruption, economic instability, and administrative overreach. It means that the empire was so big it was hard to manage, hard to administer. The historiographical shift reflects a broader trend in historical analysis towards examining systematic vulnerabilities rather than singular catastrophic events. So big words. Like vulnerability, it's where you can get hurt. Catastrophic, it means disaster, very, very bad things. So it means instead of one single disaster, like what the passage is trying to say, instead of one single disaster, there was systematic vulnerabilities, things that happened from inside over the years, and numerous factors such as economic instability, political corruption, administrative overreach. So instead of one disaster causing the fall of the Roman Empire, it was systematic vulnerabilities that developed over many, many centuries. So that's kind of a historical shift that is changing our view about some main historical events, and that could be extended not, from Roman Empire to maybe other empires that collapsed and do not exist anymore. So that's what I'm getting from the passage. Let's see if one of the choices is close to what we discovered. Question: the author most likely mentions barbarian invasions too. So as I just explained, it was not the single event of barbarian invasion that caused the fall of the Rome, but it was other systematic factors. Let me see. Let's examine the choices. Okay. A, endorse that traditional explanation. No, it doesn't endorse that. It wants to refute the traditional explanation and say that other causes were responsible for the fall of the Roman Empire. Contrast it with more complex modern analysis. Okay, that seems to be a good choice. Contrast or have the opposite view in modern analysis. So instead of one single barbarian invasion, it was many systematic internal factors that caused the fall of Roman Empire. Demonstrate their military significance? No, it was one single disaster. No military significance was mentioned by the barbarians. And choice D, criticize outdated historical methods. No, there was no criticism in the passage. It was only trying to contrast the old way of thinking with a new way of thinking. So choice B seems to be the best one, and it's the correct one. Okay, so, and one more advanced math question. Question 18, function x squared minus 4x plus 3 is graphed in the xy plane. What is the x-coordinates of the points where the graph intersects the x-axis? Okay, so this is going to be like a parabola. It's going to cross the x-axis in 2 points. And what we need to do is find the roots, or what makes this function equal to 0. Let me rewrite it again. X squared minus 4x plus 3. I need to find the values for x that makes it equal to 0, because x, the roots where the roots are the values of x that make it 0, and where x is 0, that's where we are crossing the y-axis. Okay, all right, and so we need to divide this into factors. That's what we can do here, x and x. And now we use the FOIL technique. The FOIL technique, it means outside terms, first terms, outside terms, inside terms, and last terms. So I need two numbers for outside terms and inside terms. I need two numbers that multiply to positive 3, but add up to minus 4. Let me repeat, multiply to positive 3, but add up to minus 4. So the choice might be easy. Minus 3, minus 1. Remember, if we multiply minus 3 and minus 1, they give you plus 3, but they add up to minus 4. Okay, and for the last term, we have minus 3 minus 3 multiplied by minus 1 gives you positive 3. So by these two equations, what makes the function 0? When x is 3, we have 0. When x is 1, we have 0. 3 and 1 is the choice. Okay, so we're going to see questions more like this in the future videos. If you found this video useful and would like to see more videos like this, please support the A.Z.School channel with subscribe, like, and comments. Take care and see you next time.